Well, those pesky Borg are back again, except this time they've come in a big ball rather than a nice cube. Yes, this is another Playmates release that came after the Borg Cube that they'd previously released. And as you can see, this one is a Star Trek First Contact tie-in. Only, unfortunately, again for Playmates, they were obviously slightly misled as to which Borg vessel was going to be the big bad in this particular film. Because it says here, damage the Borg ship to save Earth from attack. Now, the thing is that in fairness, it's not inaccurate because it is the Borg sphere that ends up shooting at Earth. The Borg Cube doesn't actually get that far. So in that sense, that's actually accurate. So in that sense, it does kind of work. But nonetheless, I think that what happened here was that they were told that the Borg sphere was going to be, the only Borg ship. So when they did a Borg ship for First Contact, this is what we got. Because they'd already done the cube anyway, actually. So I suppose even if they'd been told it was the cube, they'd already done the cube, and I suspect the cube was just done because it was a very famous enemy ship, and they were doing the Vorcha attack cruiser, and they were doing the Romulan Jederdeck. So they figured, yeah, we'll throw a cube in the mix, and they did the Bird of Prey, of course, as well. So they'd covered a lot of bases there. They'd covered a lot of enemy alien races, and arguably allied alien races actually as well, but that's the longer story. So what we've got here, like the cube, is a Star Trek sphere. Now these pop up in Voyager a lot more than they ever did in any of the series going, basically, because First Contact, I believe, was the first use of a sphere as a Borg ship. But we see them more and more in Voyager after that event. So this apparently is an all-new Borg ship design, 3-button activated Borg ship sounds, pop-off panel with light-up detailed battle damage. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how light-up and how detailed, because this is only about a year on from the last one we looked at. And it includes a Borg display base, again. So even though it may even be the same sort of size as the Borg Cube, because ironically this box is a cube. I'm chuckling because I'm trying to think whether or not I don't think actually the box of the cube was much bigger than this. But it was probably slightly rectangular rather than being cube shaped, ironically. So let's have a little spin around the box here. So that side is pretty much the same. It's got exciting Borg ship sounds, apparently. I'm going to need 3 AA's in a moment. So let's have a look at here. We've got pop-off panel activation button, sound activation buttons. We've got a pop-off panel. Hopefully this one is sort of sealed, well, it's sealed-esque in the box. It should have its pop-off panel. Alien Starship Profile, Starship Borg Vessel, Registry Unknown, Captain Borg Collective. That's good. I like that. That amuses me because that is accurate, but also cleverly put. Prior Borg starships, although formidable, have proven vulnerable to the ingenuity of Starfleet officers. The Borg, however, have the ability to adapt. So this new design poses an even more dangerous threat to the Federation. When damaged, a Borg ship has the ability to regenerate. If not permanently destroyed or disabled, it will once again become a lethal weapon. So again, there's the implication there from that text, I think, that this Borg sphere is somehow nastier than the Borg Cube, when generally speaking that isn't actually the case. They are still formidable, and they are framed as being formidable, certainly in Voyager, but it's more a sort of an escape pod type ancillary ship, the way it's played out in First Contact in terms of the script. So the Borg are back. The most lethal threat to humanity's existence has returned, with a new starship and a new strategy for conquering Earth. The Federation's defences fail, and the Terran system is about to be conquered. Faced with assimilation by the Borg, Starfleet turns to Captain Jean-Luc Picard and his crew from the new USS Enterprise. They stopped a Borg invasion once before, but this time fate is against them. To save Earth, they must boldly go where no one has gone before. TM. Apart from Kirk in Star Trek The Voyage Home, when he also travels back in time to save Earth. I'm just saying, hashtag, not at all the same plot line. No whales, admittedly, but you know, you see my point. So yeah, saying that they're going where no one has gone before is not entirely accurate in the slightest. So we've got a Borg display stand, which we've seen before. Now, whether this is going to be exactly the same, I don't know. Collect the entire galaxy of Star Trek movie accessories. Well, okay. I don't think I'm quite there, but there's the early Sovereign. I suspect it's the early Sovereign. I think it must be, actually. Starfleet Phaser, and of course Phoenix, which we saw quite a while ago. The Phoenix was one of the ships that I featured very early in this sequence because, chronologically speaking, it is of course earlier than this ship, even though it appears in the same film. So that actually was the first Star Trek First Contact tie-in. And what I probably hadn't appreciated at the time was that there would be others, of course. So I don't think there's a explore the final frontier each week with all new episodes of your favourite Star Trek TV shows, which I'm sure people would have been aware of at the time. Don't mix old and new batteries, kids. Okay. So I think it's probably about time that I find some batteries and have a look at this for you.
A few moments later.
Well, that was a bit of a struggle because the battery compartment was rather difficult to remove, as it turned out. So here we have it on its stand. And it's got a lot of surface detail. It's quite impressive on the surface detail front. I have to give it to it. They've avoided the sort of, it's a very uniform cube issue that inevitably tends to affect the cubes. So as you can see, you know, it's quite different all the way round. So they've done quite a nice job of that, I think. They've done quite a nice job of that, just to sort of keep it differentiated and keep it a little bit more interesting than might otherwise be the case. The sound effects are a little bit stubborn, but I'll see what I can do for you now. Hang on. Standard Playmates 3-button affair. That's it. They don't even attempt on the box, you'll have noticed from before, to identify what those are supposed to be. They're just very, very generic, odd sound effects. So, as with the Cube, I don't think they really had anything to use to put on it. And certainly at this point, they didn't have anything from for the film itself that they could sample because it's too early for that. So, very, very generic, random, spacey sort of sound effects, basically. So it does have one action feature, which is a springy button here that's supposed to make this panel pop off. Spoilers, last time I tried it, it didn't really pop off. And it still doesn't. The button just depresses and it sticks. And then about 5 minutes later, it'll decide it wants to pop back up again. But, oh, there you go. There you go. It heard me and it did it. There you go. Okay, so you then get left with this rather, I'm just going to pop, well, I'll leave the lights on for a moment just so you can see this. You get this rather odd looking sort of bluish hued, almost like it's got a sort of crystalline thing inside it. It's kind of a odd choice for the inside of a Borg Cube, but they try to do something for a Borg Sphere rather, I do apologise. So that's kind of odd in a sense. If I switch these lights off now, you might be able to just make out. This may be better. When I tried it with the batteries that had been left in it, which weren't very high powered. I think my batteries are better. So we'll just see now whether or not you can make this out. So the functionality is just here for the buttons, so I can find them. There's a little bulb right in the middle of that blue crater that lights up. other elements don't seem to do a lot. They may just be the spring elements. So that's your lot. So that was the amazing light and sound effects for this particular Borg sphere, I'm afraid. That's as much as you get. Now, the other thing that this does do, which is different to the cube, and interestingly, and I say it's interesting because the cube advertised itself as doing this, and the sphere actually does it. The connection point between the sphere and the stand isn't a solid plate. So the top of this stand is actually inserted into the cube itself. So what you can do with this one, which the cube said you could do but you couldn't, is actually just detach the sphere straight off the top of the stand without too much hassle. Now, I'm going to say that and it's going to be virtually impossible to do it, but it is only plugged into it. So it's obviously not, if I go completely off camera to do this, would you believe it doesn't want to do it now? So I was going to say that there you go. So in theory, you can leave it like that because it's only got two prongs up into the sphere. And then you've got your sphere can just sit like that if you wish it to. It does actually have a tendency to roll around quite a lot, ironically. Now, the only problem with that as an approach is partly what I've just demonstrated. A, is quite firmly inserted once it's in, but B, that is the only battery compartment cover that you've got, and it's got this sort of, it's got a gap basically. That is how it inserts into the stand. So if you kind of do anything with that, and if you wreck it, and that is a very tiny screw, I know because I've just been messing with it to get the batteries back in. If you do anything to that, you're going to have a permanently loose battery compartment covering. So it's not a great play feature as play features go, and in fairness, the box doesn't actually mention it. So I wonder if it's not an intentional play feature. It may just be a byproduct of them doing something different with this model. Now again, I wonder if this is a problem in the sense that this was put out at speed to try and tie in with the film, and they just didn't have time to make the stand with an insertion attached to it and a separate sort of, coverall base plate. I don't know what the reasoning would have been behind that, but it is a different approach to what they did with the cube, strangely. So yeah, I don't think, I mean, I like the texturing, I like the surface decoration. I think it's good. It's not green enough for my taste. I'm not sure why they've made it sort of coppery, but again, they were probably just going off early design sketches, images, because they didn't do it off the back of the final design, because they still thought, I'm guessing, that the sphere was going to be the main Borg ship. I'm imagining that at one point the sphere was going to be the size of a normal cube or bigger, and that's why there would have been more of an issue with it. But as it is, they went a different way. And so what we've got is something that is sort of okay. It probably had some very sad fates because it probably got used as a football by kids who did actually buy it. But then you can't put any figures in it. The sound effects aren't particularly convincing. There's no internal lighting like there was with the cube. It's not really as interesting as the cube in some respects, I think. And it does work all right without that separate battery cover that I was talking about, but it does leave a great big gaping hole in the bottom of it. And from a kid's point of view, which way you're supposed to fly it and stuff, it is accurate. It's accurate in the sense that Borg craft don't have any up, down, left, right. It's fine. I don't mind that personally, but a kid might. And this is a Playmates issue one after all. So I don't think that this one succeeds as well as the cube does. The cube has more presence at least, even if its decoration is a little bit shortcutted. So you pays your money quite literally and you takes your choice. But that is now, I think, that's the last of the first contact ship tie-ins now, because I've done the Phoenix, I've done the Enterprise Sovereign class, I've done the Borg, well, the Borg Cube wasn't a First Contact tie-in, of course. This sphere is the Borg First Contact tie-in, that's it. So it wasn't a sort of a massive sub-range, but it is, you know, a sub-range. And I think there were some, I think the box was sort of indicating that the phaser was perhaps a First Contact phaser, although I can't remember them being radically different, personally. They might have been. So yeah, so that's it for this particular sort of sub-range. What I'll probably do next time, I've got one new item to show you, but I've also got a couple of things I want to revisit, because I've sort of upgraded them, and that'll become clearer when I film them. So I think I'll leave it there for this one and say cheers for now.